Woodford County, Kentucky. I'm Adam Probst. I'm the County Extension Agent for Ag and Natural Resources here in Woodford County. Here in Woodford County, I think most people associate us with horses and bourbon, which we've got a lot of. About 80% of our landscape in Woodford County is all forage-based, either hay or pasture. And we run about 10 to 11,000 head of horses here in Woodford County. But one unique fact is we've got about 25,000 head of beef cows and calves here in the county, so a pretty significant presence of beef cattle in the county. But here we're on Rusty Thompson's farm here in Woodford County, and Rusty's been a big asset to the extension community here with the University of Kentucky. He's served multiple times as our local Cattlemen's Association president. He's always been active in our Extension District Board and County Extension Councils and our local ag councils. Plays a big role on Local Farm Bureau and a lot of other organizations here around the county.
Well, my name's Rusty Thompson here in Woodford County, here in Versailles, Kentucky. I'm a third-generation farmer. My son Travis, who is 30, he's farming with us now full-time. So there's three of us, Travis, myself, and Bob. We have one full-time man. Altogether, we're farming 8 farms, 1,230 acres, and we've got cattle and brood cows on 7 of those 8 farms. Several years ago, when I got out of college there in 1982, Mom and Dad and I were farming together. We could sort of see the handwriting on the wall that we needed to diversify more than just burley tobacco, because tobacco always would be #1 on the list. Everything else got pushed to #2, #3. So we immediately transitioned into hay production, a lot of hay production. You know, we're sitting in the horse capital of the world, and so we started producing a lot of alfalfa square bales, small squares at that time. Now, over years, a lot of the horse farms have transitioned to round bales stored inside, as well as the large squares. And in the last few years, we can't produce enough hay. We can't produce enough hay for the horse industry, and our cattle would get the hay that either got rained on or got too hot or molded, and that would be our cattle hay. So essentially our stocker operation would be a second tier to our hay operation. We would fertilize our pastures in the spring, move all the stockers off before grass green up, preferably so that we could fertilize the pastures for hay production, and then we'll pull that grass off late June, even early July. I know that's a little late, but we're in it for volume. We're in it for volume, and once that hay's pulled off the grass pastures, then we'd start stockpiling pasture. We'd stockpile for 90 days, and then we'll lay our stockers in the last of September, 1st of October. Travis will buy low 1s or #2s. He'll put in mixed colors. Travis does at mixed colors, anywhere from 425 to 500 pound. I normally let him buy first, and then I'll buy after his order is full. I'll put in 5 weights, 5 1/4 to 575. He and I both we'll buy a lot of bulls. You know, we do not, and I have sold preconditioned calves. We do not buy preconditioned calves. We buy from the Lexington market and from the Stanford market 4 days a week. We'll use the market manager there at each of those facilities to acquire the cattle for us. They know what Travis and I need. I'll buy mostly black and white face, but an occasional smoke might get worked in. Last year, I think it's 45% of my 180 were bulls. And I don't have a problem with that. We have our vaccinations done at the yard the day of. Nothing comes home that's not already vaccinated. We could probably do it ourselves, but then again, when we bring them home, then we're going to have to work cattle that's just been weaned, and they're upset, they're nervous, they're in a new environment, so it's easier and safer for us and safer for the cattle to have their vaccination program done at the yard. And We use Dr. Jolly at the Lexington yard, and we use the veterinary service out of Danville takes care of the Stanford facility. We'll use a Ralgro implant on all calves. If they are bulls, we'll give them a tetanus shot, band them. We do not knife cut, we'll band them. Then we'll use a liquid wormer, probably a Decamex, and then we'll work with the respiratory with a Vista 1, and then we'll rebooster again with a Vista. We give them a mycoplasma shot, and the last couple of years we've had a great success with that multi-mineral injection called Multimin. Probably the biggest key is a PI test. We got to have a PI test before they leave. If they're hot, they don't come home. They don't come home. And that's tough. You know, we had a train wreck a few years ago and lost 10 in 2 days. Brought 2 PI calves home. And you've got to have that PI test. And when they do come home, you know, Lexington and Stanford both sell on Mondays. So Lexington cattle go in one field, Stanford cattle go in another field. We keep them separated. We try to keep them separated for at least 10 days so that they don't intermingle with snotty noses and the water tanks and the feed bunks. We're shooting for 750 to 8 1/4. You know, we'll put them in, like I said, last September, and if we can move them, we push them pretty hard with our feed and our silage. We'd like to have them gone by the 1st of April for grass green up, so we can get our nitrogen on. So we're looking at pot loads of that size. You know, they in this area of the country, black is gold, but meat is red, and all meat is red. So there is somewhat of a price difference between black and colored cattle, but if I can put pounds on them, pounds to me are more important than color. We've got a pretty good reputation, Travis and I do, of visiting the buyers ahead of time. They know that the cattle are coming to the yard. We have bought cattle on the internet. I have done that years ago. Not colored cattle, but Holsteins. We've bought a lot of cattle on the internet, Holsteins, and sold Holsteins on the internet. But the dynamics of the market change every year. So we have to be flexible and change with it. And once they are sold at the yard, competition is good. We will immediately walk to the buyer's office and we will give them a little cheat sheet of the health program that these animals have had when they were last wormed and what they were implanted with, to let them know that they can pass that along to their clients that acquired these animals. Well, most of our pastures are a fescue orchard bluegrass mixture with volunteer red clover, white clover. We have a lot of what I call Japanese clover. It's called hop clover. We'll push that as soon as the cattle are pulled off. We'll chain the fields pretty hard. Up until this year, we'd throw 100 pounds of urea. That'd be 46 units of N, and push them hard. But with the price of nitrogen, we're not going to fertilize this year, or not. We're carrying over a lot of good hay that's stored inside. We'll probably keep our cattle a little bit longer and put a few more pounds on them this year. You know, we're not, you got to change with the program. We just got to change, because cattle, you know, we put these cattle in for $1.40, and these same cattle today are $1.85 to almost $2. So I'll just keep mine a little longer and rest the fields. We've been spraying our pastures with a dicamba weed control, weed master rifle. That has really cleaned the fields up. You know, running stalkers pretty hot and heavy, and you've got your feeding areas and around the barns. You get a lot of chicory and bluebells and dock and stuff like that. So we've cleaned those fields up, because that adds value to our hay, that we don't have those old barky stems and roll bales that's stored inside. It's very easy to recognize, and so we're pretty adamant of staying on our pastures, because we have our own sprayer that we can control the broadleaves. We raise our own corn silage, and we open the silage bags the first week of December. Again, these calves are all laid in essentially late September. We've had them about 60 to 75 days, just getting a little ground corn out of a bucket every day to make them know where the troughs, where the barn doors are. So we open them up, open the silage bags up, and we'll top dress with about 2 pounds of distiller's grain per head per day, as well as about 1 pound of ground corn, and that ground corn's got feed lime and corn gluten pellets and soy hull pellet, a little bit of everything, just enough to keep them coming to the trough, but to get that protein out of the distiller's grain, because it's so available with the distilleries here in central Kentucky. And we feed them once a day, and we sort of not shooting for a certain amount of pounds of silage. It's hard to monitor that, because I take care of feeding hay, and Bob and Travis feed the silage, so they hate scooping silage out after a big rain, so you got to know how much to put in the troughs depending on how many head are in the field, so that they clean it up. PI, that is bad. It's bad. I had 2 test positive out of 180. Travis had 1. Year before I had 5. Travis had 3. My neighbor over the hill, he has had 12. So that if you don't test and you turn them out with a group of calves that you acquired today, they're drinking out of the water trough, they're in the feed trough, they're rubbing on gates, and when you give them those shots, it just seems to make that disease just explode, because they're putting off germs just like COVID, and those other calves will catch it, and boy. And you can vaccinate one, but he or she's going to be dead in 40 days. Probably the biggest thing that Travis has learned, and I've been conscious not to be buying calves when he's buying, because we're just buying for ourselves, is he's been putting calves in August, maybe the first week of September when it's real hot. You don't have those temperature changes of fog, and those calves have done a lot better than getting calves in October when it's hot in the day and it's cool at night. Hot in the day, cool at night. That's tough on them. They get fog and rain. Have a long conversation with who's going to procure your cattle for you. If you're not going to be there buying them, you need to have a conversation with them and let them understand your facilities, what your feed is, what your goal is, so that they can load you up with some cheap cattle, or they can put you on the high end. You've got to develop a relationship with your purchaser of your animals.